got Travis with me this week while April's out of town. So welcome to We Need to Talk Tuesday, and Travis is going to chat with us today about numbers and why they matter in marketing.
Yeah, and the biggest thing that we always see is numbers are so crucial to what we do because business owners are constantly being bombarded with, different numbers and audience size and cost to reach the audience. And so Lacy asked me to come over and just kind of talk about some of the numbers that we deal with and how I go through them to try and find out what's best for our clients. So the first thing is, if you guys have ever been approached by a TV station, a radio station, newspaper, whatever the medium is, you always know that when they show up and they'll bring some kind of ranker. And the weird thing in radio and TV and whatnot is they're all number one, right? So trying to dig through what's number one for you can be tough. So the first thing we do is we get all the same numbers from all the radio stations, all the TV stations, all the, if it's men, 18 to 34, whatever it is, whatever your audience is. And then we compare them equally. But then you also need to take the cost into consideration. So in some markets that we work with, there's a couple of radio stations that have really small audiences. But if you're trying to reach men 18 to 34, then their rate is $10. Well, in comparison to something that's really big, who's reaching men 18-34 and women 18-34 and bigger numbers, well, you don't care about them. You want your audience. And so then when you take price into the equation and start dividing it out, we've kind of developed a method of math that says, oh, here's the number one station for cost and reach for the people that you're trying to get in touch with and connect with. People always say, oh, well, what's a good medium? Do people still use the phone book? Does newspaper still work? And it all works, but it's all about what works for who you're trying to reach and what's it cost to reach that person. I recently saw it was a newspaper they had emailed us their sheet, and they had taken it was a stadium in this particular market. And, it was really clever. They took all the sections and they were showing what the cost was or how many people that they reached. So they said, we reach 70% of the market. And then, they took and they shaded in 70% of the stadium, and they said, we're reaching 70% of the market. You have to advertise here. And on the surface, you go, wow, I would love to have 70% of this town coming to my business or buying my product. But here's the problem. If you sell skateboards, well, they reach 70% of your audience, but of the market. But if your guy is over here buying a skateboard, he's not reading the newspaper. So they could give you that ad for free, and it would be it wouldn't be effective because it's not your market. So, and like I said, newspaper, phone book, it all works, but it's all cost, reach, and what's going to help get people in the door, getting that most bang for your buck. So that's kind of when it comes to buying media, that's how we go through numbers. The other thing that we see a lot of, we had a call from a client who he owns a lot of retail outlets all over the country. And we're helping him in one market, but he had hired other people in other markets to do social media. And we're not doing any social media for him at the time. And he goes, well, we're trying social media in our Phoenix market. And we paid them a lot of money, and they grew the Facebook following by 10% over the last year. And he goes, that's a horrible number.
And when Travis told me that, I was like, that's a great number.
It could be, right?
Yeah, I was like 10%, that's really good.
Yeah, so if you have, you know, 500,000 people in your Facebook account and you grew it 10% in a year,
That's wonderful.
that's great. And so I didn't know how to respond to him, and I said, well, let's kind of dive in, let's take a look. And so I went to the page for Phoenix, and they had just over 10,000 people in there. So when you are looking at, 10,000 people, and the Phoenix market is 4.8 million, well, you're not even reaching just this small fraction of a percent. And if you start doing the math, I mean, roughly that's one person in every about 450 residents in Phoenix, you're reaching one of them. That's pretty tough. And when you're at, well, he was probably at 9,000, 9,200 to get 10% more to get to 10,000. Yeah, that's a horrible number. I started comparing some of the people that we have that we do work with, and I had written some of these numbers down just to give you an example. But we have a client that's in Omaha, and Omaha is about their followers are about 11,500.
Similar market.
Similar market, but the size-wise,
Yeah.
Omaha is less than 1 million people.
Mm-hmm.
And so for the Omaha market, we're reaching one in 63. And we have another client that's in Lincoln, and their page has 12,400 followers in their Facebook page. And that, Lincoln is, what are we, about 300,000 now? So that's 1 in 23. And then we have another client who's just over the river in Council Bluffs, and they're actually have 7,000 people in their social media and their Facebook, and that's 1 in 9. Now, when you compare that to a market like Phoenix, these are the numbers that they should be seeing, and they're not. So you need to evaluate your social media based on who are you reaching, is it in your target demo, what's it cost, and what's the population, what's realistic. Because if Phoenix was seeing these kind of numbers, their social media would be somewhere between about 100 and 500,000 people. So that's kind of how we use a lot of these numbers to figure out the success of marketing. The other thing that we always hear is we don't buy Super Bowl ads for any of our clients because it's uber expensive. And there's a lot of hype around the Super Bowl. There's a lot of, it's the best bang for your buck, the best cost per thousand. And it's really not. And the Super Bowl always drives me nuts. You always hear me gripe about it the day after. All the advertising people get on the radio and who had the greatest ad of the Super Bowl, which is not the question.
Yeah.
The question is who had the greatest Super Bowl ad last year? Because somebody spent $10 million to get an ad to you, and if you can't remember who did good last year, that means your shelf life is really short. But the Super Bowl is about, I won't bore you with all the math because I'm kind of a math nerd, but the Super Bowl has a $45, it's a CPT, cost per thousand, CPM, cost per thousand. And so everybody goes, oh wow, that's really cheap. yes, it is, and no, it's not. It's very cheap in that one ad is $5 million. You're reaching a lot of people, but you're also doing a lot of production to compete with all those other people. So your production, you can't just go in and put a $2,000 commercial together and stick it next to a $5 million Budweiser commercial, because you're gonna look bad. But just comparing the numbers at a $45 cost per thousand, social media, YouTube is $9 and some change. I actually have some of these numbers written down. So to reach 1,000 people, YouTube is $9.68 to reach 1,000 people. And what's even better is it's your people. You can do these ads within YouTube that are focused on men or women or adults or kids or, you know, age groups. I mean, you can narrow it right down to 1 year, you know, 45-year-old men. And you're going to reach 1,000 45-year-old men, whereas something like the Super Bowl, you're going to reach everybody who likes football, which is Super Bowl. It's pretty much everybody.
Pretty much everybody.
Yeah. Facebook is just under $8 cost per thousand. Twitter is about $6. Same with Instagram. So a lot of these social media platforms, they're narrowing down the groups for you, and making it much more cost effective to advertise to them. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't be in radio or shouldn't be in TV, because that helps get people into the top of the funnel. But it's all kind of a math game, trying to figure out who is going to be the best cost, reach the most people, and where they're going to play that process within your buying funnel.
Yeah.
So
I should have warned you ahead of time. Travis is a huge numbers nerd, and sorry I called you a nerd.
That's all right.
And he just geeks out on this all day long. And I had to tell him before we started, like, don't go too long. We don't want people to turn it off because it went too long and it was way over their head. But this is what we do. This is how we determine, what's going to be the best bang for your buck. And is it working? Numbers don't lie. You can't fudge the numbers. They're going to tell you the truth. They're going to tell you the full story. So a lot of us, we often say in marketing that marketing's course correction. We do Travis's little signature. It's just a little course correction. But in all honesty, it's a lot of educated guesses, and it's a lot of logic. We use a lot of logic to say, okay, this is where we believe you are going to get the most bang for your buck. And it might be a little course correction along the way, but by and large, we are in the right space. We may just have to connect the messaging a little better, or alter who we're targeting a little differently. But overall, we are able to, because of the numbers, find a good space right off the bat, and we're not just having to throw things against the wall and seeing what sticks.
And one thing I like too, that these guys developed, we developed, I'm going to take a little credit.
Yes.
I had nothing to do with it. Our reporting system.
Yes.
Our reporting system, it is so cool. I did ask for it.
He asked for it.
So there you go. If I didn't ask,
we wouldn't have put it together.
Yeah, right. But the reporting numbers we send out to our clients every month. If it's good, they get them. If it's bad, they get them.
With an explanation.
With an explanation and a plan moving forward. And I absolutely love that, because you're not going to hit a home run every single week.
Well, they're not our numbers. They're pulled from the platforms. So we're not just making these numbers up or calculating them ourselves. They're coming from the platforms into our system that then prints out a report that's all pieced together instead of having to go to this platform and this platform and this platform.
And they all have access to the same numbers.
Yes.
So, if they go, is that number right? Well, you can go to Facebook or you can get into analytics and look at it, because there's no fudging the numbers. Right. There's no question mark of, is this really doing what they said? And that's one thing I'm really proud that we have, because the numbers are the numbers,
Yep.
and nobody can hide from them. And really, we don't want to hide from them because sometimes the numbers are just okay, and sometimes they look like they're down. If we had a couple of big promotions for a
yes.
client. It was, I opened up that report and it was like, and then we looked and it's like, well, yeah, but last month we did this promotion, and their numbers were huge.
Yeah.
But we can see these patterns of how well things are doing, and also it gives us a good guide to course correct, because the numbers are just so absolutely crucial to measuring what are you getting for your money every single month.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you guys haven't seen the reports, reach out. I mean, we can send you a sample report. They're really cool. They do a good job.
Wow.
And I asked the question.
And he asked for it.
I got the ball rolling.
There you go. Well, thank you guys for tuning in. This Tuesday, April will be back next Tuesday, and we will hit you again with a fun video with April and I doing our crazy thing.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.